Get started. For guests and visitors, my name is Steve Perley. I'm the club president. I'd like to welcome you all to the 32nd meeting of the 47th year Dublin Worthington Rotary Club. Today's invocation and pledge of allegiance, I had down as Pete Barnhart. Anybody else know anything about the invocation today?
On Zoom?
No, I don't see him. He might be on the golf course.
I'll fill in for the prayer.
I knew somebody would come to my rescue. Thank you, Tom.
Dear Lord, let us be thankful for everything we have. Let us try and understand others. Try and be more forgiving, more loving. Bless this food for which we're about to eat. In your name we pray. Amen. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Yeah, apparently. There we go. All right, thank you, Tom, for coming to my rescue. President Teresa, please introduce.
I believe we have any except our speaker, which will be introduced another time. And we do have.
Clap welcome because I love it.
Okay.
1, 2, 3.
Best president
I
ever.
do.
All right, that takes us down the list to our sergeant. Put that sandwich down, Mr. Katz.
Did you say Wolf was a member of the family that he would carry the pot?
Oh.
Governor's work for you. Thank you. You don't have to be sorry. He's not. As you know, I'm just the substitute. And I'm standing in for Alan Grossman. And so I'm going to try to do this as Alan would have done it.
Oh, no.
Yeah. And so first of all, Wolf, here's my $2. It'll be a $2 limit today, as always, unless, of course, you'll see later. I'm putting in my $2 because once again, I've noticed that a lot of our members, if it weren't for cottage cheese, they'd have no culture at all. And I've got tickets to the symphony on Friday, and they're at a reduced price. Parking, good seats, right on the aisle, in the orchestra. So if you're wanting to get some culture, let me know and I'll take care of it for you. All right, next we have Happy Dollars. Now, it seems last week must have been a week for travel because a couple of our members, don't go away, Jennifer. A couple of our members have spent time in California. I'm not going to fine them for taking trips out of Ohio when we need to have them in Ohio spending dollars here. And they decided they'd go elsewhere. So Jennifer, tell us about your trip. What did you do good? What did you'd rather you'd stayed home for?
Well, I'm really glad I went. My husband had to work south of San Francisco, and so I tagged along with him because I have a companion pass on Southwest Airlines. It was like 65 and sunny, and we went to Pinnacles National Park, so checked another one off the list. and there was nothing bad about it. It was all good.
Okay, well, that's worth $1. George and Sue, you were in California. See, she was in Northern California. You were in, tell us about your trip.
Well, it's something I've done for many years. I've gone to San Diego. My daughter lives in San Diego. So I've done staying for 5 days. We had a great time. I got to see my grandson. George was very gracious and going along and picking up some girls. Everything was very beautiful weather.
There you go. Now, seeing your family is worth $1. And George, for trying to interrupt, that's $1.
Yeah.
Okay? Any other happy dollars? Andrew?
So they, you might know, in between jobs right now, which is fine, but last week, I was able to be a substitute teacher for the first time.
Oh, nice.
Very good.
Cool. Thank you.
Very good. On the Zoom call, any happy dollars back
Yeah.
here?
Jerry?
Yes,
Yeah, Jerry, Don Motley here.
go ahead, Don.
Yeah, since Pat Teaberry is our guest today, I'm going to actually, even though you're a $2 limit, I'm going to donate 8 happy dollars. Jennifer, please mark that down. Because before Pat was a congressman and before he was president of the Ohio Business Roundtable, he and I served together for 8 years in the Ohio House of Representatives. So that's worth at least $8 toward Rotary today.
Okay, we're not gonna hold that against him or you.
That's right.
Mike Moulton, you take your mute off and tell us about your new job.
Well, I have a new job doing pretty much the same thing, but with a new company. And that's the name of the company is Cornwell Lawn and Landscaping. And we're kind of west side of Columbus on Valley View Drive.
Okay, that's worth a couple bucks. And have you updated the DAC DP information?
I have, I think I got our website. Yes, I did, because I kept getting emails at the wrong address.
Okay, so anybody that needs landscaping, you know where to find the new information. And maybe you can actually talk to Mike.
Maybe.
Okay, any other happy dollars? Court.
Sunday, I was happy to receive a call from April Kwan. For you new folks, April was the Rotary International Scholars and was here to get her master's degree. Remember this drive. She was in Los Angeles in Mandarin. And so she's since retired, called today in her family and hopefully visit. That's Tom and I were talking about back in the days when you wore ties. It was that long ago that we met her. So it was wonderful to be able to chat with her and get up to date.
Okay, that's good. Thank you. You look like you had money out. Are you?
I'm just prepared.
You're prepared. Okay, any other happy dollars? All right, now, I don't know who does all this stuff. Oh, by the way, you're late, you're tardy, put in a buck. I don't know who does all these things, but today is International Dog Biscuit Appreciation Day. So if you've ever had a dog, put in a buck. Now, it's also National Banana Bread Day. So if you've ever slipped up, pay a buck. On top of that, it's National Hospitality Workers Appreciation Day. So obviously, if you ever left a waitress and didn't leave a tip, or you didn't leave a big enough tip, or you haven't booked a trip with Ro, because she's in the hospitality business, then you owe $1, put it in the pot. It's National Tile Day.
Tile?
Tile Day. And to that I say, so what? All right, it's National Play Tennis Day. So if you've ever worried about your net, put in $1. Now, I am proclaiming today, this week, actually, Annual Forgiveness Week for the Dublin Worthington Rotary Club. National Forgiveness Week. So if you've ever not put in your fines when you were supposed to, or you need to ask somebody for forgiveness, this is the week to do it. You can always, you guys on Zoom, you can always email Jennifer with your forgiveness message and how much money she should add to your invoice.
Yay.
No judgments here. We're not going to publish the list of those that put in extra. We just like to have the money. Oh, that's it. I'm not telling you any bad dad joke. You ought to clap for that.
I was really looking forward to the dad joke.
Almost sounded like this was a confessional thing.
Well,
I'll pay
thank
$1 not to hear the jokes.
you. Moving right along, it's time for announcements. So I've got a couple. The satellite club concept. I know there's a lot of questions, concerns, comments. People aren't quite sure what it is. What does it mean? Should we do it? Should we not do it? So to do this properly, I think we're going to hold an information session just to talk about it as a club. And that doesn't mean we're going to move forward with it. I think it's a decision we need to discuss. And so I will be sending an email to try to coordinate that. There will be free food. It'll probably be in, I don't know, if the evening next week sometime. If you can make it, great. Yeah. Then we also have an election update. So last week, the deadline for board member elections was last Wednesday at 5 p.m. We had 46 members vote affirmatively for our new slate of board of directors scheduled to begin their term July 1st. Our new board members are Andrew and Darnell, so let's give them a round of applause. And of course, our re-elected board members are Christy and Jennifer Best. So let's give them a round of applause. And yes, I appreciate everybody that participated in voting and especially appreciate our new board members coming in. Looking forward to it. All right, other announcements. Andrew.
The food drive has been changed to Saturday, March 26th from 9 to 11:30. Sorry. I'm going to be passing around a sign-up sheet for volunteers. You'll see that the first volunteer is the captain. So if you want to be the captain of the site, feel free to sign up for that. If you don't want to be a captain but still want to volunteer, just sign up for on lines 2, 3, and 4. Thank you.
What are the duties of the captain?
Making sure you get the signage, making sure that you're there on time. The rest of the team or the rest of volunteers are there, and then also in charge of making sure the food gets to the food.
Thank you, Andrew. Teresa, would you like to make an announcement?
I do, sure. No, we had a president's elect this year, and it was the tickets total. 57 of those were cash donations. 2 of them were no-sos, and 1, I think Jim Allen, your wife, is making hers. She's making 3. Okay, we need to add that number then. Thank you very much, you all.
And the deadline for this is March 9th,
2 weeks from today.
2 weeks from today, that's right. Do we think we could hit 100? I don't know. Let's see if we can do it. Okay, Rich Goldberg, do you have an announcement?
I sure do. You've got 5 more days, not including today, to take advantage of the district matching points campaign. As Steve said last week, it's kind of a 50% off sale. And most of you, I think, realize it or have heard my announcement the last couple of weeks, but in case there's someone that hasn't heard this whole point is to help encourage members to obtain a Paul Harris Fellow, either for the first time or for second or third or fourth time, or even more than that. That's to contribute $1,000 to either the annual fund or Polio Plus. You know, all the great programs of the Rotary Foundation, obviously including the Polio Plus, you know, it's for a great cause. The matching campaign, you need to make a donation of anywhere from $100 up to $1,000, and assuming there are points available, and I think there will be still, they'll match whatever you do. And you do need to do it by check, make it payable to the Rotary Foundation, and send it to Bill Shorthill at the address indicated on the form that's been distributed. If for any reason any of you don't have it and need it, let me know and I'll email it to you. But again, it needs to be sent to Bill Shorthill at that address, and it has to be postmarked by this Monday, February 28th. So I encourage you to do it. If any of you have questions about where you are, how many foundation points you have, please let me know and I can contact you. I do plan by tomorrow to contact those people that either are already qualified for a Paul Harris Fellow or close to it, just to make sure you know in case you want to take advantage of the campaign right now. So I appreciate your generosity to the foundation. Thank you.
Thank you, Rich. Appreciate that. While we're on Zoom, does anybody else on Zoom have an announcement?
I have an announcement about the Slate Hill Elementary School project. We've been on that for the last few months. You may remember that Julie Gully, the principal from Slate Hill, came and spoke to us back in October. We are going to be asking members to get started with our volunteer efforts there by writing notes of encouragement to students during testing season. So there are we'll have a list of students available, I think by next week. First names and some just sample notes that the members can write. They don't have to be. We're not looking for tomes here. Just a simple. You've got this message for students as they go into their testing season. So more information on that to come next week. We also have some opportunities for members to get involved in the classroom volunteering as well. So some of you I've reached out to about that already, and we'll be reaching out to more next week and the following weeks. So keep an eye out for messages, and if you are available to volunteer for those programs, please do so. Thank you.
Thank you, Nick. Thank you to your committee for keeping that moving. I know it's challenging right now. Anybody else on Zoom? Okay. Wolf, I believe you have some announcements.
Good afternoon, everybody. Good to be with you again. A couple quick announcements. February 24th, which is, I believe, tomorrow, at 5 o'clock, there is a virtual meeting to talk about how to engage your team. So if you're in a leadership position in Rotary or just have an interest in that, most clubs are struggling with that right now with COVID and all the other issues we have. So that is 5 o'clock tomorrow. You can get it on February 28th. which I believe is Monday, and that is on grants training. So if you are a TRF coordinator or a second, that is something that you need to take every year. So if you would register for that, that is also virtual, 6:30 to 8 on the DAC-DB website. You can find more information. And then lastly, I've got a couple of 125 pins to award if we can do that. The 125 Club, if you recall, is a construct of our district to allow everybody to give a $100 donation to the Rotary Foundation and a $25 donation to the Polio Plus. Thank you. I couldn't get that one out. So anyhow, we have a couple new club members who have done this many times in the past, but I'd like to recognize Connie Hendren and Rose Roe Morrow for contributing to the 125 Club. And I know many of you do that too. By the way, there's a new vehicle to do that. It's called Give Butter. It is an app on your phone, so you can do it directly through there. It costs a couple bucks extra for their service charge, but that's another way to give if you don't want to do it through the club. So yeah, thank you very much. I'll leave you these and give you a list.
Excellent.
Thanks.
Thank you,
Hey,
Wolf.
Steve.
Thanks for being
Hey,
here.
Steve.
Yes, John.
Before Pat speaks, we're having a little trouble with, I'm not sure you can do anything about it, but it's sometimes hard to hear people speak. And not that we didn't want to hear the rest of you who spoke already, but we're here to hear Pat too, so.
Is it cutting in and out, or is it just muffled?
Vibrating, but maybe from the podium, it's not as bad. So
Steve,
as long as Pat doesn't walk around all the place, we should be okay.
Steve, it pops up low bandwidth on your end.
Yeah, I don't think I can fix that at the moment. I'm sorry.
Okay.
All right. Wayne, would you like to introduce our speaker?
Okay.
I will say one last announcement. I think we are, working towards finding a new meeting location, whether that's another temporary location. I spoke with a Trillium rep earlier today, and it's sounding promising over there. So just to give everybody a little hope. This may be a month, 2 months, maybe 3 months. It sounds like. We'll see. All right.
Okay. Today, we're going to learn about the Ohio Extension programs, one in particular called the Ohio Business Roundtable. I'd like to see how many have heard of the Ohio Business Roundtable. Just about everybody here. So I was asking Pat, and he doesn't know the extension of how we are, but he's going to explain the purpose of this extension. It is geared towards the large business interest in our community, presidents and CEOs of about 90 organizations, and they're here to foster the business environment. He's going to get into that. The program started about 2018, and the governor put that together, and they said, Pat, hey, can you kind of help pull that together? And in 2019, they made him the CEO of this organization. The 90 people, about a third of them are in the Fortune 500, and I think they're located in Ohio. So in 2019, he was also appointed the chair of the governor's executive workplace, and he's going to give you the details of the core value or the extension of that. So prior to that, Pat has been a representative of the House, as you all are probably very aware, the last 17 years. And he even did a stint as the majority leader of the Ohio. He's a graduate of Ohio State, played trumpet in the Ohio State band. He lives in northern Columbus with his wife Denise and 4 daughters. So without further ado, I'm going to pass the microphone to Pat. Thank you for being with us.
Thank you.
If I just put this on the tie.
That'd be great.
You guys let me know if you can hear me okay. Yes, no, maybe, okay?
I see head nods. It might fade in and out.
Might fade in and
Yes,
out.
we can hear you. Thank you, Pat.
You're welcome.
I will try to speak slow so it comes across. Hey, Butterfield, are you like in Florida or where are you, buddy?
I'm just down the street, actually.
Yeah, sure you are. Well, it is really great to be with all of you today. I miss seeing folks throughout what was the 12th district. Thank you, Wynn, for the introduction. So let me tell you a little bit about the Ohio Business Roundtable first, and then I'll go backwards to tell you how it all kind of came about and what we do and what I do on a daily basis. As Wynn said, in 2019, separately from being the CEO of the Ohio Business Roundtable, I got appointed to the Governor's Workforce Board, which is a state board. It's a volunteer position. It's just more work for no pay. That is comprised of people throughout the state who are involved in education and in business together to try to come together. And now it's more important than ever, try to come together and solve the workforce challenges in our state. It's nonpartisan. It's full of folks, men, women, reflective of really the state geographically. So for instance, in Central Ohio, some of the folks that are on it, the Dublin, he was Hilliard superintendent when he started. He's now the Dublin superintendent, school superintendent is on the workforce board. The former Reynoldsburg superintendent is on the workforce board. There are some retired teachers. There are some vocational folks on it. There are CEOs from small businesses, medium-sized businesses, large businesses on it. There are some folks within government. So there's 2 state senators, Democrat, Republican, two representatives, Democrat, Republican. The governor appoints everybody. Lieutenant governor is on it. I chair it, which only means I open the meeting and close the meeting and call on people. But there's an office in the governor's office called the Workforce Transformation Office, has 3 people on it. They staff this large committee, and it's been fascinating. I know a lot of people. But let me tell you about my job that pays the bills, and the reason why I left Congress back in 2018. So it's been a little over 4 years now. Been my 4th year at the Ohio Business Roundtable. It was started in 1992. 1992 is when the Business Roundtable started. So let me take you back to 1992. And I remember it vividly because it's when I first ran for the legislature. Don Motley and I ran together in 1992. I was running for a brand new district in 1992 in Franklin County. Every 10 years, maps get redrawn, kind of a timely topic. And they're redrawn based upon the census. So congressional maps are drawn. The US Census gives each state the number of congressional seats based upon population. Ohio is again losing a seat because our population hasn't grown as much as other states. So we've lost a seat. But also within the state legislature, within our state, House and Senate, lines are redrawn based upon population patterns. So you all remember this. In 1992, that was reflected of the growth in the 80s. Franklin County gained 3 new state house seats and 1 Senate seat. One of those state house seats was drawn starting in the North Linden area through the Northland area and Monica's Palace. Wynn has a special place in his heart for that. So right through the Northland area, and then north of 270 and a little bit south of 270, by the way, the win-win areas of Columbus. So in the Westerville, Worthington, and Dublin school districts was this brand new district, and there wasn't a state legislator. It was a new seat because of the growth. So I ran for that seat in 1992. Don Motley ran for a seat in the Montgomery County area, the Dayton area, and we both got lucky and won. And we served together for 8 years in the Ohio House of Representatives. Don will remember this vividly in 1992. The House was controlled by Democrats. Vern Rife was the Speaker of the House. He still holds the title of the longest running speaker in the history of state houses in America. He was a bit of an authoritarian as a speaker. And the Senate was controlled by Republicans, so the map was a compromise for 92. And George Voinovich was in his first term as governor. And that was the election, midterm election. And in 1992, Voinovich was so frustrated with the lack of the ability to get a workers' compensation reform bill through the Ohio House of Representatives. He had a group of CEOs that he talked to and urged them to start the Ohio Business Roundtable. And the reason he did that is when he was mayor of Cleveland, and some of you might remember this, the city was bankrupt. The river, the Cuyahoga River, was on fire at one point in time. He became mayor on a platform of reform. He got a group of CEOs in Cleveland together and started a group called Cleveland Tomorrow, a group of CEOs separate from the chamber, to help him with Cleveland City Council, which was controlled by Democrats, to try to reform the city to make it more attractive again and get it out of bankruptcy. So he was replicating that, and that's how the Ohio Business Roundtable was formed, on the basis of trying to reform the workers' compensation system, which he called the silent killer of jobs in our state. And that was the birth of the Ohio Business Roundtable, and it has continued to exist since 1992. Over the years, we've been involved in everything that you would think of that would make Ohio more competitive versus our peer states to grow our economy. At the end of the day, the whole reason we were founded was to try to leverage CEOs' ability around the state through large employment bases with respect to policymakers at the state level to try to make Ohio more competitive. So whether you think of certainty in the tax code, in the regulatory environment, in the courts, in state government in general, we're a nonpartisan organization. We have about 100 members. When I took over, we had about 50. And we work closely with whoever the administration is, the governor's office, historically speaking. Through the years, the organization in 2015, 16, 17 really focused on education reform, spent a lot of money to try to reform our education system in Ohio, particularly schools that were struggling on getting kids educated, quite frankly, because if you don't have an educated workforce or a trained, skilled workforce, you're in trouble. And that effort didn't really succeed too well. The organization put a lot of money into it. We lost a lot of members. Tried to really focus on urban school districts around the state. Tried to help train principals. And in June of 2017, the CEO of the organization announced he was retiring at the end of the year. So I got a call from a headhunter, which wasn't the first time I'd had a call from a headhunter, in the summer of 2017, saying this job was open. We've been asked to contact you to meet with the search committee, a group of CEOs. And I said I wasn't interested, and I really wasn't interested. And he asked why, and I said I'm not interested in leaving Congress. So that's the summer of 2017. So what happened then, which is public but probably not talked about a lot, my mom, who had, I was thinking about running for the US Senate actually in early 2017 and had started preparing to do that. A week after Easter in 2017, my mom, I was doing a fundraising swing through New York and Florida. And after church on that Sunday after Easter, my mom fell. She fell at church, she missed a step, and she fell on her face and had to go to the hospital. So she goes to Riverside, she gets admitted, doesn't have a phone in her room. She's not in ICU, but she's there for several days. So I don't get back to see her until Monday night. She falls Sunday after church. And my almost 5-foot mom, Italian immigrant, says to me, I could have died in here. And it took you how long to come see me? What are you doing in New York and Florida? And I said, Mom, I'm thinking about Worthington. I said, I had a couple fundraisers. You're fine. And she said, she knows the answer to the question, by the way. She says, why would you want to run for the US Senate? How much do US senators make? I said, about $175,000 a year. And you represent the whole state. Yes. How much does a congressman make? About $175,000 a year. And you represent kind of like part of Central Ohio. Yes, that's right, Bob. Did I raise a stupid kid or what? Why would you take a job that pays the exact amount of money and you have the entire state rather than just Central Ohio? Well, I wasn't going to convince my mom because she already knew the answer to the question and she was trying to make a point. Here's a sad part of that story is when my mom was in the hospital, one of my sisters and my dad spent the entire Sunday after she fell in the hospital. And my sister took my dad home about 10 o'clock that night from the hospital where they'd been all day. And says to my dad, as she's getting ready to leave, I'll pick you up tomorrow and we'll go back and see Mom. And he says to her, Dad, quiet guy, where's Mom? How about that? How about that shock? He didn't remember that he spent the entire day at the hospital with my mom. Now, my sisters and I knew that previous Christmas that my dad didn't seem right, but you're only going over on a Sunday or maybe after work for an hour. And, he's quiet. He's always been quiet. And you say to my mom, is Dad okay? And he doesn't seem right. Oh, he's just having a bad day. He didn't sleep well last night. That's what we got all the time, right? Well, what we found out and what my mom told me from the hospital bed was, we didn't want to bother you. Your dad got diagnosed a year and a half ago with dementia. How about that? How about that shock? So I found out within the next couple weeks, going to my parents' house, that like is the case in so many instances in America today, around the world, that these two wonderful parents didn't want to tell their kids that they were having this struggle because they didn't want to bother us. And in the meantime, my dad, who took care of all the bills, and my mom thought he was still taking care of all the bills, did not take care of all the bills. Driver's license, insurance lapsed, property taxes not paid just a couple of months earlier. So he begun to progress over that last few months. And so I ended any sort of Senate foolishness and focused on them. And then my mom started not feeling well in August. On Labor Day, she finally agrees to allow me to make a doctor's appointment because when she fell, she broke her nose, but she also twisted an ankle really bad and was walking with a cane. They didn't want to do surgery on it, thought it would heal. It never healed right. And now she was having more challenging walking. It just didn't seem right. So I'm in Washington. My sister takes her to a doctor on the Friday after Labor Day. And I'm on a flight, a Southwest flight back home, back to Ohio, that Friday night. I'm in the airport. It's after dinner. It's like 7 o'clock, waiting for my flight. And the doctor calls my cell phone and says, Pat, I have some bad news for you. I'd like you and your mom to come back tomorrow to talk about it in our offices, an Ohio State doctor. They did an extensive test, they did blood work, and they found out my mom had cancer. And it was pretty serious, he said. And I asked him on the phone, what do you mean by that? And he said, maybe 6 months to a year to live. Think about that shocker, right? My mom's my dad's caregiver. We're worried about my dad. And out of the blue, my mom has cancer. She dies 21 days later. 21 days later. I mean, wow. If that doesn't put perspective in your life of what's important and what's not important, nothing will. So we're at Kobacker House. We're at Kobacker House, and my mom is days away from passing away. And I got a call on my cell phone from the chairman at the time of the Ohio Business Roundtable, who happens to be the CEO of Marathon, who I'd gotten to know years earlier because he was really close friends with one of my colleagues who has since passed away, Mike Oxley from Findlay, Ohio. Great guy. And his name's Gary Heminger. And today Gary Heminger is the chairman of the board of Ohio State. And he's a very direct guy, very no nonsense guy, super nice guy. And he just starts in, Pat, why wouldn't you even talk to us about this Ohio Business Roundtable job? Now, I had that conversation with that headhunter like 6 weeks earlier. And they moved kind of slowly, I guess, because I guess he just got the word. And I said, Gary, I really wasn't interested. I didn't know he was even chairing the search committee. I apologize. He said, well, that's just not very smart for you not at least to listen to us and talk to us about it. And I said, you're right. It's not very smart. But my mom's in hospice right now. Can you give me a month? And I'll call you back. So I did. And by the way, I still had no interest in the job. Now, my perspective had changed about being in Washington long-term. Won't deny that. I had to deal with my dad. Mortality comes into focus now. I have 4 daughters at home. My mom says on her deathbed, you know, you've got 4 beautiful daughters. You're not, and a wife, you're not home enough. You need to be home more. And coming from a parent who you thought would live a lot longer, and suddenly he's not, has an impact on you. But I was definitely going to finish my term, probably run for re-election. But long-term, it wasn't going to be the case. I was starting to think that. So I go into this interview, and I'm sure many of you had this experience in your life, having no interest in this job, not even preparing for the interview, because I already have in my mind why this is not the right job for me. And I told them, because from my perspective, he's going to remember this. When this organization was founded, it was well respected because there were CEOs who were engaged. They were engaged with policymakers. And over the last years, from my perspective as a policymaker, not only not engaged, you policymakers didn't even know who they were. They're totally unknown. And that's not the fault of the guy running it or the gal running it. It's the fault of the CEOs. So the members of the organization. So I told him that. So that the headhunter walks out with me, and he's from out of town after my hour interview with him. And he says to me, and for those of you who know me, I'm pretty transparent. I try to be respectful, and I was respectful, but I wasn't sucking up to them in any way, shape, or form. And he said, I can't believe you talk to them like that. I said, well, why not? They need to hear what people think of them. He said, I'm not sure what the reaction is going to be, but I'll let you know if you make the next round of interviews. I said, I'm really not interested in the job. So you just tell them that. So that's like right after lunch. The guy calls me from the airport because he's going home. And he said, you blew him away. They want you even more now. He wants to offer you the job tomorrow. And I said, did he not hear me? Did you not hear me? I am not interested in the job. And so it was really fascinating. And he said, so Gary wants to call you tomorrow and offer you the job. And he wants you to say yes. I said, no, I'm not going to say yes. I'll have a conversation with him again, but I'm not going to say yes. So anyhow, this went on, and talked more to him about it. I won't bore you with further details, but it got leaked that I was having this conversation with him. I accepted the job without terms, without knowing the salary, so not knowing even how many members they had or what financial condition they were having, which I found out later. I negotiated that over the next 2 months. I left Congress in January of 2018, and I started a new job, which I would have never imagined that I would have done. My quality of life is so much better. I still am engaged in a lot of different ways because of the Ohio Business Roundtable, which I'll tell you a little bit more about. And I don't miss Washington one second, quite frankly. But I enjoyed my job, and I enjoyed the ability to actually get things done for people individually or collectively, by the way. And that's oftentimes missed today, that the job that you do is not just about making a speech. It's not appearing on cable news. It's about helping people. I'll just give you a couple examples that you'll find fascinating. We were out at Bravos, whatever it is, at Polaris Mall one day, 6-7 years ago. And after, with a friend of ours, so 4 of us, after the dinner, the waiter brought the check and says to me, no idea he knew who I was. He says, Congressman, I just want to thank you. You saved my dad's life. Now, my friend, who's kind of a practical joker, started laughing and says to the waiter, how much did he pay you to tell you that? Now, I didn't know I just didn't even know who the guy was. And he says, he didn't pay me anything. I've never met the congressman before, but my dad was a veteran. My mom died. He went into severe depression. He almost lost his house. We couldn't get the VA's attention. He's a service-connected veteran. And the congressman's office got involved, got the VA involved, saved his house, got him the counseling he needed. And my dad's doing a lot better today, but he was suicidal. We had no idea how bad it was until we called the congressman's office. We couldn't get anywhere with the VA. And they turned around, they helped. You know, my friend felt about that big, but that's the part of being a representative that people often don't hear about. I really enjoyed that part of the job. And it was meaningful. And those stories still throughout the community appear now and then, which makes me feel really, really good. At the roundtable, our job is quite frankly to try to make Ohio more competitive. And there are a lot of different ways to do that. Economic development has been and is our North Star, but workforce and workforce development is the biggest issue today. So we reflect the Ohio economy. We have CEOs, mostly CEOs of public companies in the energy, healthcare, retail, manufacturing, you name it, space. But we also have some private company CEOs. We also have some nonprofit CEOs. So nonprofit, you say? Yeah, nonprofit CEOs. They're a minority, but they're large employers. So think of the Cleveland Clinic. It's a nonprofit. Ohio Health, a nonprofit. Ohio State, some of the larger public universities. The Ohio State president is a member of ours. The University of Cincinnati president is a member of ours. University of Toledo president is a member of ours. So public, private, nonprofit CEOs, leaders of those companies are our members. They come together, they interact with each other, try to figure out best practices among themselves, like during COVID, return to work. You know, what are you doing at your company? What are you doing at your company to bring people back? Are you doing some sort of hybrid model? Are you doing this kind of stuff still? What are you gonna bring everybody back? So you have a club almost of folks that share in the fact that they run large organizations and provide best practices for each other. We also engage them to try to help Ohio's policymakers. Let me give you an example. Our members, by and large, workforce is a big, important issue. Thought it was really important to, when COVID started, to echo what the governor was talking about in terms of safety. So if you're an employer, you want to make sure you have a safe working environment. In fact, some of them are regulated pretty significantly. And safety also means with COVID raging and no vaccine, that means safety for employees who still have to work. So if you're Owens Corning or Owens, Illinois, and you're still manufacturing, you can't do that from home. So you have safety procedures in place, wearing a mask, being socially distanced, And in fact, our office ran a campaign among private sector employers on safety in the workplace to try to encourage the governor to keep as much of the economy open as possible. We put our money where our mouth was, and we raised over $1 million in projecting these safety procedures and voluntarily pushing vaccines, right? Not mandating, and most of our members didn't mandate them. Most of our members didn't want the Biden administration to mandate them to vaccinate their employees. But the flip side of it is, for those of you who pay attention to the State House, nor did we want Republicans in the legislature to say, as a private employer, you can't mandate the vaccine. What's the common theme? Don't tell us how to run our business. We have a vested interest in making sure our employees and our customers are safe. We have a very competitive workforce right now. Very competitive workforce. If you haven't noticed that going to a restaurant, but it's across the board. It's across every single occupation. And so that's a little bit about what we do. We use our perspective on the free economy, the capital markets, to try to tell policymakers on both sides of the aisle that the more you regulate us as private businesses, the less efficient we are going to be and the less competitive we can be with other states. It's hard to compete with southern states because we don't have beaches or warm weather all year. So give us at least some ability through the regulatory environment, through the tax environment, to be a little bit more competitive. And it's a lot of different things. It's not one thing. And so the Intel announcement is a little bit about that. It's a little bit about stability. They noticed the stability of the Supreme Court over the course of the last 15 years. They noticed the stability of the governor's office being no drama governor's office, being a no drama regulatory environment. And that makes a difference when you're looking between, let's say, Ohio and New York, which was one of the finalists for this Intel mega project. And it is a mega project. You know, I grew up in Columbus, and it was in high school when the folks at Honda announced coming to Marysville, and heard about it all the time throughout my entire life. Heard the Jim Rhodes relationship with Honda executives made a difference. The Mike DeWine relationship that was non-existent a year ago, but over the course of the last 6 months, in meeting with the CEO of this tech company, this worldwide tech company, but a CEO who grew up in Pennsylvania on a farm, and Mike DeWine, who comes from a farm family, the values that those two shared made a difference in them choosing Ohio versus another state. When Ohio wasn't even at the top 30 sites when this first started. Think about that. Now, we had a good site. We have a good university system. They like the fact that they're going to be close to an airport, that we have plenty of water. I mean, water is our secret weapon, quite frankly, in the future. A lot of states that we compete with, like Arizona, don't have the water that we have. So anyhow, cheaper electricity. Workforce is still an issue. And that's one of the things we're focused on. That's why we're doing a CEO summit in May that we're going to sponsor for the very first time, having CEOs open to the public, talk about what they're doing to attract a better workforce. And by the way, the ultimate measure of whether we are growing or not and whether we're winning or not in the end is about congressional districts. So while we're doing better than we did 10 years ago and much better than we did 20 years ago, we're still not doing good enough because we lost another congressional district because of population competition over the last 10 years. Texas continues to lead the way. They have significant advantages. Obviously, the weather's not as nice here as Texas, you could argue, but the regulatory and tax environment is much better in Texas, much better. So we still have a ways to go, but that's what we do. That's what we do at the Ohio Business Roundtable. It's been terrific. I get to work with a lot of different other association leaders in our state. So you think of, we're a trade association. Ours is different because we're not centered around an industry. And ours is different because it's CEOs. But the Ohio CPAs, an association that cares about what CPAs think. That's important. Ohio manufacturers. Right? Ohio NFIB, small businesses. Usually CEOs or the leader of the business, could be a business of one, average NFIB members 5. So small restaurant owners, small manufacturers, we collaborate with them for the purposes of making Ohio more competitive. We want to keep our talent here. We want the best and brightest not to go to Chicago, not to go to New York, not to go to Austin or Nashville or Atlanta. We want them to stay in Ohio and work for a cool company in Ohio, whether it's the Cleveland Clinic or the Procter & Gamble or whoever else. We want them to stay in Ohio. We need to do a better job of that. And then we need to keep focusing on those kids in poor rural and poor urban who get socially promoted, who don't have the skills to get a job when they graduate from high school, if they graduate from high school, and end up being the folks that we have to take care of, either in the prison system or through welfare. We cannot continue to sustain this. The state that figures it out the best is going to be a winner in this. So think about it. We spend now time, and we do as well, our employers do, on second chance programs. So people who are in prison, get out of prison, get retrained. Cameron Mitchell Restaurants has a great program on this. But what if we prevented that from happening in the first place? Get these kids in a position where they have the skills so they don't get caught up in a life of crime or poverty. So working with our educators, working with our policymakers, trying to better kids into not necessarily going to college, by the way. Maybe it's becoming a skilled tradesman. Ever pay a plumber recently? Or trying to get one to come out? Or a heating and cooling guy? Or electrician? Oh my God, and go to 4 years of college. So we're working on a lumber projects along those lines, and I get to be home every night. My first year out of Congress, I got to see more kids' events than I got to see my oldest daughter, who is 18, throughout her entire middle and high school years. So it was, from a quality of life standpoint, the right move to make. But an honor and privilege to represent many of you for a long time. Thank you for your service in Dublin, Worthington Rotary. I enjoy the La Scala lunches a little bit better than this, but good to be with you anyway. Happy to answer any questions. Thank you all.
I've got one. How did you take an organization that was in decline, double its membership and make it relevant again?
During COVID.
Yeah.
Right? Wow. I mean, the first year, I just was trying to figure out what we were doing and how we were doing it and what the history was. And meeting the 50 members that we had, that I inherited, and trying to make sure they didn't quit before I even started the rebuild in 2019. And then COVID hit. Well, first, Woody Hayes used to say you win with people. And I got hired on January 16th. I started in 2018. I inherited one person. I inherited debt, which I didn't know I was inheriting. And I just had to try to figure my way out. Over the course, maybe it was about 6 months, I hired 2 people who had worked for me in Congress, both from around here. And then by the fall, I hired another one. So 3 that worked for me in Congress. I wish I could have hired more if I could have afforded it. They helped turn it around, quite frankly. And it was just the old-fashioned way. You go meet with the CEO of the Cleveland Clinic and say, hey, why did you drop out 3 years ago? And Okay, I get that. Well, we're different now, and here's what we're gonna do. And here's why it's important for you to become a member again. I know you're really, really busy. I'm not gonna bother you. You don't have to come to the meetings if you don't want to, but we're gonna make it as easy for you as possible, and we want to provide value to you. But at the end of the day, speaking from a former policymaker standpoint, you got a great team, you got a great reputation internationally, but there are things that'll happen in Ohio because you're headquartered here, they're going to impact you. And you can be part of making that better by being part of this organization that is so different than any other organization you belong to, because this organization has you as the CEO of the clinic, but also the CEO of Procter & Gamble, the CEO of American Electric Power, the CEO of Owens Corning, and you go on, and it's different, right? So if you're the governor and COVID hits, and this happened, he called me and said, hey, Pat, I've been reading that COVID is raging in Asia. COVID is raging in, this is right before the Arnold Classic got canceled, raging in Europe. Can you pull together some CEOs who have operations in Europe and Asia and give me a feel of what's going on in those countries, right? We did 3 calls with them. I learned so much. We had, as an example, CEO Procter & Gamble on a couple of those calls. We had, I don't probably have time to tell a funny story, but if I do, you tell me. CEO Procter & Gamble, CEO Cintas down at Cincinnati, international operations, CEO of Greif up here in Delaware. Cleveland Clinic had an operation in Dubai, or has an operation in Dubai. We had Owens Illinois CEO, Owens Corning CEO, Cardinal Health CEO, operation in Asia, RPM International, operation in the heart of the region in Italy that was devastated by COVID in real time. Anyhow, we had, I can't remember which one it was. One of them had an operation in the province in China where COVID started, and right there. And they talked about what they were doing, and most of them, to their credit, hadn't lost anybody. And in the whole scheme of things, most of our members with operations in Europe and Asia lost only a handful of people in those countries where they were getting just devastated because of how serious they took it and the safety precautions, which I'm really happy to say led the governor, and some have criticized him, to have a large segment of our economy still open. People focus on the restaurants, retail, but in terms of manufacturing and logistics, there are a lot of things still open. And it really helped us kind of not get into the economic despair that many other states are in. So that's how we're different. And that's how getting those CEOs engaged, and then showing more CEOs, hey, look, we did this. We encouraged the governor to start an economic advisory council in June of 2020. 25 people, leaders of small, medium, and large businesses, chaired by one of our members. And that word got around that we got them to do that. And that led to more success, right? So success breeds success.
So I think we've got just time for one more. Teresa, I saw your hand first. Did you have?
I'll make it really quick. CEO workshop that you talked about in May. How do we find out about that?
I will make sure that you get an email with all the information that I'll get to win.
Ohio FIB.
Ohio National Federation of Independent Businesses, NFIB. Yeah, so it's a national organization. Ohio has a chapter. It represents small, usually privately held family businesses. Roger Geiger's their president. Terrific organization. We're aligned on a lot of different things, but they're smaller employers.
Congressman, thank you very much for coming today. If you have a moment, could you please stick around and answer any questions? I know Tom has some, and there might be more in the room. So, but we are kind of running over time.
Yeah.
So
thank you.
Thank you again. All right, our program next week will be given by Johanna Wintrick. She's a realtor, but she's also going to be sharing with us her life story as a European immigrant. It will certainly be a moving presentation that you won't want to miss. There's the dad joke for you, Jerry. All right, before we wrap up, we have a raffle.
We have $8.
$8.
And the last four numbers are 6741.
6741.
Follow the flags with more chances to win.
Okay. One. Okay, the ace of spades. 6731.
6731. How much is in the ace of spades?
Not
How much
enough.
is in the ace of spades? $67.
$67. Peggy, come on down.
All right.
Right over there.
From an old gambler.
You know when to fold it?
Oh. 10 of clubs. No good. Thanks for playing. All right. Yes, John?
Can you ask Peggy if she's got any update on Connie? I know you're running late, but we haven't heard.
No, I sent flowers and cards, but I haven't heard from her.
I had a email from her late last night. She's starting her second round. Cancer's gone. She's starting her second round. It knocks her out. It's not easy for her. She misses us. Well, some of us. Terribly. And can't wait to get back.
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you, John, for bringing that up. All right, it's time for the four-way test. Maybe.
Thank you.
Here it is. All right. Of the things we think, say, and do. First, is it the
Is it the
truth?
truth?
Second,
Is it fair to all concerned?
Third,
Will it build goodwill
And better
better
friendships.
friendships?
and fourth, will it be beneficial?
Beneficial to all concerned.
Thank you, everybody. Have a great rest of your week. We are adjourned.
Thank you.